And then when it feels appropriate, let the eyes open if they are closed. Let's interlace the fingers and extend the arms out in front of us. This can be palms toward us or palms away from us, whatever feels most impactful for the shoulders. And then inhale and just take the arms up and overhead. We'll exhale the hands back to heart center. And just settle there. And then we'll interlace the fingers and extend the arms out in front of us. Inhale, let the arms reach up overhead. And exhale, your hands to heart center. Once again, just let everything settle there. And one more time, interlacing and extending and inhaling the arms up and overhead. And exhaling, the hands to heart center, letting everything settle. Now let's transition to hands and knees tabletop. We'll come into a shape. We're into a base shape that we can feel some strength in. Really think about how engaged we can be at the four corners of connection. And then think about how the posterior chain musculature, kind of the whole torso, but particularly around the scapula, are receiving that level of engagement. And let's keep that awareness as we curl our toes, lift our seat, and roll our way back into down dog. And we, once again, just want to feel that strong engagement across our fingertips, finger mounds. And let's come down to hands and knees tabletop. We'll flip the tops of the feet and sink our way back into child's pose. You settle back into child's pose, just allow for a little ease, little softness of the breath. There's this big, must be ancient, Siberian elm in the middle of this town square. Anyone who's encountered a Siberian elm that knows what they are. They're trees that grow quickly. They can get massive. They have incredibly dense, incredibly difficult to work with wood. And they also tend to, at the same time, have a high level of brittleness. And this particular ancient giant Siberian elm is currently buckling under the weight of a winter snowstorm. When it feels appropriate, let's let our fingertips grip into the mat in front of us. We'll pull ourselves forward to hands and knees tabletop once again. And let's curl our toes, lift our seat, and roll our way back into down dog. Come into down dog, sway the hips a little bit here so we get a little lateral hip movement. As you're moving the hips, kind of note how the posterior chain at that high calf insertion responds to the edge of range of motion. Try to keep your heels relatively static. And then tailbone comes back to neutral. Let's walk our way forward to the front of the mat. And we'll inhale into half lift. Get that nice, long, neutral, flat back. Exhale back into fold. Drift your awareness to your sacrum. Let's roll our way up, vertebrae by vertebrae. Finding our way to mountain. Bring the hands together at heart center. As the fingertips meet one another, try to feel intently the ridges that make up your fingerprints. So we have corresponding, not necessarily mirroring, but corresponding ridges. Try to align those. And then let's keep that focus on a really static hand connection as we slide our left foot straight back into lunge. So hand stays right at heart center. With the hands aligned at heart center, gives us a little more capacity to think about what's going on in the torso and that front quad. Want to make sure we're keeping the bend out of the back leg as we smooth our way into some depth. And then let's just step forward. And return to mountain. And when it feels appropriate, same kind of awareness on the hand connection, same stickiness between the prints. Let's let our right foot straight back into lunge. And same thing, as the hands stay at heart center, really allow that kind of centering of the upper torso to draw some awareness into the front quad, into the verticality of the torso. And then we'll just step forward. Drop your hands behind you and interlace the fingers once again. Interlace may be the wrong word. Maybe that doesn't feel right for the shoulders. So maybe we just take the palms to the glutes, or maybe we just have the hands on the sides of the pants there. But we're drawing some broadness across this anterior shoulder girdle. And then push the heels and toes as comfortably together as you can get them. And then just energize into the toe mounts. You don't need to come up onto the tiptoes, but just energize into the toe mounts, lighten the connection that the heels are making with the mat, and then push the thumbs down and feel that anterior broadening, maybe a little bit more intently. Try to keep this nice neutral alignment. And then we'll relax, sweep the arms up and overhead. Get that big full lift and exhale through forward fold. Inhale into half lift. Exhale back into fold. Slide your left foot straight back into lunge. Plant your left hand and take the right hand up into a nice big full twist. And then right hand comes back down to the mat. Left foot steps forward, refined fold, inhale into half lift. Exhale back into fold. We'll do the same thing to the second side. Right foot steps straight back, right hand plants, left hand into this nice big full twist. Good shoulder stack here. Left hand to the mat, right foot steps forward. Inhale into half lift. Exhale back into fold. Plant your hands. We'll walk our way into down dog. When you get back in down dog, add that lateral sway once again. So we get to feel how the posterior chain has changed since the first time through. And then we'll bring our tailbone back to neutral, shift forward to plank, and slowly lower ourselves to our belly. As you come into this prone position, let's squeeze the scapula both back, but down towards the glutes. So hands staying right where they are, scapula coming back and then down towards the glutes. Flex into your quads just to make sure that the kneecaps are lifted. And then just feel that awareness across the shoulder girdle. So think about a wide, depthful expansion of the shoulder girdle. And at the same time, just pay attention to what's going on in the respiration. And then we'll relax, slide the hands underneath our forehead for a little crocodile pose. And just be at ease here. Just really nice and delicate, nice and slow cycles of respiration. Really fluid, really easy, really gentle. And so as the snow piles up more and more on this elm, the weight becomes more and more unbearable until eventually there's a tension break. And this giant elm snaps and it comes crashing down right in the center of this town square. Now, luckily, it missed this like ancient statue and the community fire pit, but it's certainly going to be a problem. Give yourself just 20 more seconds here. And when it feels appropriate for you, let's slide our hands back underneath our shoulders. We'll press ourselves up to hands and knees tabletop. Curl our toes, lift our seat, and find our way back into down dog. So you get back into down dog, maybe a little lateral sway once again. Really think about how you can move to feel the expansive capacity here. And eventually tailbone comes back to neutral. And as the tailbone comes back to neutral, let's send our left leg straight back and behind us for a little three-legged dog. Try to get the depth that's available to you here before you step that left foot forward and into lunge. And we'll sweep our way up into a traditional crescent. First traditional crescent practice. So first time we've had the arms extended. Maintain that same awareness on the neutral torso, vertical torso alignment. And then put your hands down to the mat. We'll step the left leg back into down dog. Shift forward to plank. Lift the seat back into down dog. Settle into that depth and then send your right foot straight back and behind you. Get all the depth that's available to you there. And then we'll step our right foot forward into lunge. And as we find that base, just sweep yourself up. Traditional crescent side 2. Good strength in the front leg. Straight strength in that back leg. Nice neutral vertical torso. Float the hands down to the mat. Step the right foot back into down dog. We'll shift our weight to plank. Lift our seat to down dog. And then walk to the front of the mat. Inhale into half lift. Splay the toes out nice and wide and think about how anchored you can be at the big toe mound, pinky toe mound, and how active you can be in the arches of your feet. And then let's shift our awareness to our sacrum and roll ourselves up vertebrae by vertebrae. Eventually coming to mountain. Maybe bringing the hands together, heart center. And sliding our left foot straight back into lunge. As the left foot lands, let's ground the left heel. Open up the hips into a nice little external rotation, a little asymmetrical. Take the right arm and extend it straight forward. And we're just going to take that right arm down to a little side angle. So this could come to the forearm to the thigh if that feels best. You could also take the right fingers down to the mat. And you can extend that left arm if that also feels accessible. We want nice stacked shoulders. So whether our arm is extended or not, we want the shoulders to be stacked. And then we'll draw ourselves up into warrior 2. So we're going to keep the arms wide, smooth out into that space, and then spin your left heel up and come into crescent. Drop the hands, use that momentum to help you step forward. And find mountain once again. And then let's step that right foot straight back into lunge. As the right foot lands, ground the right heel and open the hips. Extend the left arm forward. You can go left forearm to left thigh, or you can take the left hand to the ground. You can extend that arm if it feels accessible to you. We want to find a place where the shoulders can stack Think about the toe mound from the pinky toe edge to the big toe edge and how active the arches can be. And then draw yourself up into warrior two. Big, expansive shape here. Right heel spins up, we're into crescent. We'll drop the hands and step to the front of the mat using that momentum. Sweep the arms up and overhead. Exhale through forward fold. Inhale into half lift. Get the neutral flat back here. Really think about extending the crown of your head out, keeping the cervical spine neutral. Chin is gently tucked. And then dropping back into the full depth of your fold. As you come into the fold, just note where the weight balance distribution is across the toe mounds. Pretty easy to kind of roll to that outer edge. Think about anchoring down into the big toe side of both feet. Plant your hands, we'll walk to down dog. Shift to plank. Lower ourselves to our belly. Land there, flex the quads so the kneecaps lift. Let's slide our hands down towards our hips. If that feels like it's enough for the shoulders, keep them right there. If you feel like you can take the hands and place them palm up, so palm towards the ceiling on your glutes, that'd be step two. Step three would be fingers interlaced at the sacrum. This is really dependent on how our shoulders feel tonight. And so we have the knees lifted and we have the shoulders active. Think about the anterior shoulder capsule, and we want to be lifting those away from the mat. So both sides of the shoulder girdle have this end cap lifted. We're getting this nice anterior expansion from the sternum towards the lateral edges. And then we're going to lift our forehead maybe 1/4 of an inch off of the mat. And we just take this opportunity to breathe here. We'll relax. Slide our hands underneath our forehead for a little crocodile pose. Notice how it's not just the anterior shoulder girdle that relaxes. Feel how the posterior chain also softens. How the space you've created really does offer anterior and posterior expansive capacity. So the next day, this little village gets a couple quotes on removing this massive fallen tree. And the quotes come back kind of catastrophically bad. There isn't a single quote that is less than the entire maintenance budget that this town has set up for the year. And this is just to remove one tree. And so there's a little bit of a panic. People start talking about raising taxes. And they gather and they have this community meeting to discuss the problem. And the community meeting goes how a lot of community meetings will go. It becomes pretty problematic pretty quickly. And the panic level starts to kind of spiral upward. Let's give ourselves just 15 more seconds here. That is until someone says, what if we auctioned off this tree? And then it goes from panic spiral upward to catastrophic laughing at what a terrible idea this is. When it feels appropriate for you, let's slide our hands underneath our shoulders. We'll press ourselves up to hands and knees tabletop. So you get to hands and knees tabletop. Make sure you splay the fingers out and feel the hands activate into the mat. So maybe even you create that little suction cup up, like we're gonna just kick straight up into a handstand, but we have enough strength in the hands that we really feel activation there. And then curl your toes, lift your seat, and find down dog. Let's walk to the front of the mat. Inhale into half lift. Exhale back into fold. Slide your left foot straight back into lunge. Ground your left heel. Place your right hand on the medial edge, big toe edge of the right foot, and just roll to a side angle. We open up, we feel some side angle, and then see what it feels like to slide that right hamstring back towards triangle. You don't have to get into triangle. We're just kind of checking out the sensation. How does it feel to expand the hamstring? At the same time, we're maintaining that shoulder stack awareness. And then rebend the front knee fully so that we get a vertical tibia and fibia. Draw yourself up to warrior two. Broaden and expand into that warrior two sensation. Spin the left heel up, we'll come into crescent. Put the hands down to the mat and we'll step forward into fold. Inhale into half lift. Exhale back into fold. Slide that right foot straight back. Ground the right heel, bring the left hand, big toe edge of the left foot. Let's roll ourselves open into side angle and then just see what it feels like to drop back towards triangle. Does not have to be into triangle. We are looking for the expansion of that posterior chain. Just want to see how that feels. Let's breathe here. Think about the big toe mound, the arch, how active, how strong we are in the foot. And then let's rebend that front knee. Draw ourselves up into warrior two. Big, wide blossom here. Right heel spins up, we're into crescent. Drop the hands to the mat, step forward into fold. Inhale into half lift. Think about the weight distribution across the toe mounds. Think about the engagement of the posterior and anterior tibialis musculature here. We want to have a nice amount of strength on the front side of our legs. We want to feel the calves. And then exhale back into fold. Drift your awareness to your sacrum. We'll roll or sweep our way up into mountain. As we get into mountain, bring your hands together, heart center. Let your hands once again drift towards behind you. This can be an interlace behind you. It can be at your sides. It can be palms to the glutes, whatever feels most impactful for you. And then we'll broaden out across the sternum, across the shoulder girdle. Push the thumbs down. Get light in the heels once again. Maybe you want to come up onto the toe mounds this time. You don't have to. We're just light on the heels, taking some of the pressure off of our heels. And then re-engaging the heels as we sweep the arms up and overhead. Exhale through forward fold. Inhale into half lift. Exhale back into fold. Plant your hands, we'll walk our way into down dog. Let's come down to hands and knees tabletop. And just once again, think about the finger engagement, finger mound engagement, fingerprint engagement. And this time, see if you can take the heels of the hands off the mat. That may not be accessible for your wrist, but just see if you have the ability to take the heels of your hands off of the mat. And we're gonna curl our toes and lift our seat and find our way back into down dog. Then we're shifting forward to plank and lowering ourselves down to our belly. Flexing the quads so the kneecaps lift. And then once you get that kneecap lift, we're gonna take our hands either to our side, checking in with our shoulders once again. So they're gonna be on the side. You can go palms away from you, so facing towards the ceiling on the glutes, or you can interlace the fingers. Whatever feels most accessible to you. And then we're gonna make sure that the anterior shoulder girdle is active, so we have those shoulder capsules hold and retracted back. And then we'll lift the forehead maybe a half an inch off of the mat here. Once again, we're getting here and we're breathing. You can push those thumbs down towards the heels. And we'll relax and slide our hands underneath our forehead for a little crocodile pose. Let the shoulders relax. Let the soft tissue supporting the spinal column, particularly around the thoracic joint, relax and be at ease. And so this idea of auctioning off this tree gets laughed at. Like, why would anyone pay for this tree when it's going to cost more than our entire budget to remove it? And the person who brought up this idea kind of calmly and patiently says, well, I was thinking maybe that this fallen tree could become an art display in the middle of our town center. And we have the statue, we have this grand fire pit, but wouldn't it be nice if we had something made recently that could be beautiful? And so pretty quickly, this idea starts to catch on. And with no real other good options, the town decides that they're going to auction off this giant fallen tree. And whoever buys it can do whatever art project they want to do with it, can create whatever they want to create with it. We'll give ourselves just 15 more seconds here. When it feels appropriate for you, let's slide our hands back underneath our shoulders. We'll press ourselves up to hands and knees, tabletop. You get the tabletop. Once again, take that hand splay, think about the fingerprints, think about the finger mounds, think about engaging. Maybe you lift the heels of the hands off the mat again, maybe you don't, but we're really strong in the four fingers of our hands. And then let's curl our toes, lift our seat, and find our way into down dog. Breathe into the depth of this shape. And we'll walk our way to the front of the mat. Inhale into half lift. Exhale back into fold. Drift your awareness to your sacrum. Let's roll our way up. So that we find mountain. Hands can come together, heart center. Let's slide our right foot straight back and behind us. And then we're going to ground our right heel and blossom to warrior two. Slide back into your left hamstring. Let's drop down for a touch of triangle. And then rebend your front knee and draw yourself up into warrior two. Now, keep the back heel grounded. So you're gonna stay anchored across that lateral edge and turn your torso towards the front of the room for warrior one. And then drop the hands down to the mat. As the hands drop down to the mat, start to slide back into your left hamstring. And then see what it feels like to take that left hand up for a little revolved triangle. Make sure we're stacking the shoulders still. Good full breath. And then left hand comes down to the mat. Left knee bends. Right heel spins up and we'll step forward into fold. Inhale into half lift. Nice neutral flat back. Exhale back into fold. Let your spine completely relax there. And then drift your awareness to your sacrum. And let's roll or sweep our way up into mountain. Hands can come together at heart center if that feels appropriate for you. Think about regrounding, resettling here. And then our left foot's going to slide straight back. Build that strength, ground that left heel. And let's take ourselves out into 2. Then slide back into your right hamstring. Just come down and touch triangle. Just kind of checking out how triangle feels here. And pop, or bend the front knee and pop back up into 2. Settle into that space. And we're going to keep that lateral edge of the back foot anchored as we turn our torso towards warrior 1. And drop the hands down on the mat. So the hands come down to the mat, slide back into your right hamstring, and see what it feels like to take the right hand up into a little revolved triangle. Remember, you can bend that front knee. There's nothing telling you that you need to lock that knee out. Just trying to check in on a really difficult shape. And the right hand can come down. The left heel spins up and we'll step forward into fold, inhaling into half lift. Nice neutral flat back. Exhale back into fold. Lift your awareness to your sacrum and let's roll ourselves up vertebrae by vertebrae. And bring our hands together, heart center. Once again, just allowing everything to kind of catch up, to settle here. And then let's slide our right foot straight back into lunge. Sweep our way up into crescent. Now we should have a lot of space for this crescent. So think about sinking in. See if you can sink in until you feel that anterior sheath of musculature on the right leg start to expand with the depth. And then we'll float our hands down to the mat and step forward into fold. Inhale into half lift. Exhale back into fold. Drift your awareness to your sacrum. Let's roll or sweep our way up into mountain. Settle in that mountain alignment. Nice, fluid, easy breath here. And we'll do the same thing to the second side. Left foot's going to slide straight back into lunge. We're going to sweep our way into crescent. And we're just trying to sink in so that we get this sheath of musculature. Big, full anterior expansion. We're going to use the depth we've created to just take this primary shape and expand ourselves into full depth. And then we'll float the hands to the mat. Step forward into fold. Inhale into half lift. Exhale back into fold. Drift your awareness to your sacrum. Let's roll or sweep our way up into mountain. Bring our hands together at heart center for a pause. An awareness across the shoulder girdle. Drop our hands either to our side or behind us or interlaced, whatever feels most impactful. Broaden out across the shoulder girdle. Maybe you lift the chin slightly. Push the thumbs down. And then let's take a little half fold here. A little exhale into half fold. Looking for a neutral spine. Chin maybe tucks as you get into this full space. And then we'll lift ourselves right back up. We may feel that in the hamstrings. And then maybe you get a little chin lift again as you push the thumbs down. And then one more time, let's take a half fold. Release the arms zombie style straight down. And then release yourself into a full fold. Try to feel the lumbar relax into the depth here. Plant your hands, we'll walk our way into down dog. Come down to hands and knees. Tabletop, we'll flip the tops of the feet and sink our way back into child's pose. Second time in child's pose, this will be the last time we make it a child's pose this practice. Think about what has changed, what has softened, where you have more space, where you maybe don't have more space. Really gentle and easy with the respiration cycles. And so over the course of the next couple of weeks, this little village kind of all collectively decide that this local art college is going to win the auction. And they're not going to pay a lot. And it's good because the dean of this art college is not budgeting a lot. But collectively, the community has just decided it makes the most sense for the art school to do this. If they'll make a contribution, even better. And yet, on the day of this auction, there's another bidder. Someone that no one expected would be there and who no one has any expectation of artistic talent. This recluse from the edge of town. Recluse. When it feels better for you and it feels appropriate for you, let's let our hands out in front of us. Let's pull ourselves forward to tabletop. Once again, just feel the hands, feel the fingers, feel the engagement, the strength that's kind of radiating up from the grip. And then let's extend our legs out in front of us for staff. And as the legs extend, just follow them forward into a fold. We've been relatively posterior chain heavy here, so we should have some space, but that doesn't mean that the legs need to be straight, right? Remember that we can soften and change. We can soften the posterior chain restrictions and change where those restrictions come from, where we're expanding. So if you're feeling like this is all still stuck in the hamstrings, or maybe it's still stuck in the high calf insertion, bend the knees more and see if you can get the low back, maybe the mid back involved in a little expansiveness here. And so pretty quickly, this auction gets bid up to where the art school said they weren't going to pay more than that. And the dean is there, and the bid goes over that number, and everybody looks to the dean to see if he'll give an approval. He shakes his head no. And so very, very unexpectedly, this person that no one thought would be interested in this project, this person that no one has any idea that no one had any idea that they were artistic, if they are, has won this bid to be the artist that will take care of this huge project in the middle of this town square. Last roughly 30 seconds here. And no one can really be mad. Everything was by the rules they set up. But people are on edge. They are worried that they might not get the best artistic expression, the one they were kind of now expecting out of the art school. When it feels appropriate, let's bring ourselves back to vertical. Just let the spine decompress there. And then we're going to continue that by releasing onto our back, letting the spine greet the mat, letting the mat greet the spine, feeling that supported neutrality here. Good opportunity to feel the work we've done on the posterior chain. And we'll give ourselves about 30 more seconds just to settle in here, just to feel what we've done thus far in practice. When it feels appropriate for you, Let's pull our right thigh in towards our torso and see if you can interlace the fingers behind the hamstring. If that's not accessible to you, just kind of grab the thigh and then see if it's accessible while the right leg is roughly extended towards the ceiling to extend your left leg down the mat. And then once you get there, maybe the bottom of the right foot starts to push a little bit more ceilingward. At the same time, you don't want to be rounding up the spine here. The shoulders don't want to be pulling off the mat. So the knee bend can be the remedy. Maybe the knee stays bent, or maybe the knee stays really bent, but we want to have our shoulders and our spine grounded. We'll just give ourselves 5 more seconds here. And then slowly release the right foot so it mirrors the left. And just feel that bilateral imbalance. And then we'll bend both knees. Kneecaps point towards the ceiling. We'll take this to the second side. Left leg's gonna come in towards the torso. We'll interlace the hands behind the hamstring if that's accessible. If not, just grab the leg. And then once you're there, see what it feels like to extend that right leg down the mat. And then if we're there, see what it feels like to extend the bottom of the left foot ceilingward or skyward, depending on where you are. We just take some nice, easy fluid breaths. Remember, the spine, the shoulders are connected to the mat here. The head's connected to the mat here. We're relaxed in the torso. Even if the posterior chain is not relaxed, even if it's pretty taut, remember you can bend that knee to bring some more slack into the system. We'll just give ourselves about 5 more seconds here. And then the left leg is going to release down and mirror the right. And we're just at ease there. Feel that bilateral balance, maybe, potentially. And then we'll bend both knees. And here, we're just going to take our left ankle across our right thigh. So we create a little figure 4 alignment. The left hip can externally rotate as much as feels appropriate for you. And so now we've added into this play, this external hip rotation. We're going to see if it's accessible for us to interlace the fingers behind the right hamstring. But that may not be the case. The left hip may not allow that. It may be a limiting factor. And if that's the case, just keep the right heel grounded. Just stay where we gun. If we're here and we're able to get that interlace and we're feeling really comfortable, then maybe we take the right foot and we once again go skyward. Same rule applies to the head, the shoulders, and the spine though. We're relaxed, we're at ease. Maybe that left hip is the restriction point. Maybe it's the hamstring. But if there's anything that's preventing us from being relaxed and eased in the torso, we should back out. And then if we do have the right foot extended, we'll release that down to the mat. We'll release our hands if they are behind our hamstring. And we'll just go back into this little figure 4 for a moment. And then the left foot comes down to the mat. Maybe now we're in some asymmetry. And let's add a little lateral sway. Just some delicate movement here just to experience the hips in rotation, the spine in rotation, maybe the space we've created. Maybe one more time to each side. Eventually, We'll bring the knees back to neutral and take our right ankle across our left thigh. As we get here, we just settle into this little modified figure 4. Note how we feel here, how the external rotation of that right hip sits within the body. If it feels like there's additional space, and only if it feels like there's additional space, then we see if we can take the interlace behind the left hamstring. Once again, we need the shoulders, the head, the back to be relaxed. If it's possible, then maybe we take the bottom of the left foot skyward. Same rule applies on side 2, head relaxed, shoulders relaxed, spine relaxed. And breath relaxed. Really nice and easy in our capacity to experience respiration here. And when you feel balanced left or right, when it feels appropriate for you and no rush to make that true, if we have the leg extended, we can release that. If we have the hands behind the hamstrings, we can release those. We go back into this modified figure 4 if we're not already there. We just experience this re-landing in this shape, now maybe with a little bit more space, potentially. And then eventually the right foot comes down to mirror the left. And we go back into a little lateral exploration. Just some dynamic twists here at your own duration, at your own depth, whatever feels most impactful for you. So this recluse had won this auction fair and square. And he comes down the next day with this kind of old weathered axe, an axe that looks like it's split 10,000 logs, and it looks like it's never been sharpened. When it feels appropriate for you, we just bring the knees back to neutral. Ask yourself if there's anything you want, if there's anything you need, if there's anything that you could benefit from prior to Shavasana. If you have everything you need, if you have everything you want, if you're ready for some stillness, let's drift ourselves into a shape where we can appreciate some stillness. And just fully settle in. And so immediately the townspeople are horrified. You know, they expected these fancy tools, and to see this rudimentary axe that looks like it's been certainly used, if not abused, for a decade. You just can't imagine that this is the tool that this person thinks they're going to create this fantastic art project with. And he starts taking these kind of grotesquely aggressive swings at this tree. And these huge chunks of the tree start kind of splitting off. Anyone who's ever tried to split Siberian elm knows that it is not an easy project. It is not a fun project. And so he is swinging with all his might, and these giant chunks of this tree are coming off, and he's creating these piles around this town center of these chunks of wood he's removing. And people from the art college are coming over, and they're starting to mock him because of how blunt and crude and rudimentary this art project looks. Just let yourself just fully and completely relax into this shape. the course of the year, more and more people started to approach this recluse as he worked on this log. And more people started to attempt to shame him. He'd greet the people the same every time, a smile and a nod. But as the seasons moved on, as spring became summer, summer became autumn, and the log continued to not take any form, and he continued to use this axe, more and more people from the school, people from the community who wanted him to give this project over to the school, continued to approach and just critique and criticize. And he continued to smile and nod. And he continued to take these large chunks out of this tree. We'll start to bring some movement to our fingers and our toes. Eventually, the fever in the community got to the point as winter started to settle in and nothing had really changed, and this project had become this huge eyesore. The community convened another meeting to figure out how to solve this new problem of this artist who wasn't doing anything, moving into your wrists, except for creating a mess, into your ankles, into your elbows, into your knees, to your shoulders, your hips, your neck, your head, your jaw, your eyes, your tongue. Eventually, the entirety of your body will move, and we'll utilize that movement to transition our way back into a seat. In the seated space, spine gets tall, breath gets fluid, eyes close. And as everyone sat down for this meeting, a snowstorm had just started, and these huge snowflakes started to fall on everyone. Everyone was freezing. This recluse went over to one of the piles of wood that he had kind of scattered around this town center. And he picked up all that he could handle in his arms, and he carried it over to the fire pit. And he lit a fire, and the warmth from this fire he created just spread through this whole center. With your next inhale, we'll bring our hands together at our center. For the course of the next 7 days, can you remind yourself that when you are clear with who you are and what your mission is, the opinions of others are inconsequential. See how that impacts your experience. Thank you so much for being a part of this evening's practice and for being you. Namaste. Happy Monday, guys. Appreciate the heck out of you being here.